For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my review of The Long Walk. Yes, I know it has taken me forever and that it has been on digital for a couple days, but I have finally gotten around to watching it. And if I do sound a bit low energy, it's because I just finished this movie about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and I sort of haven't even said a word, not even to myself since, because I sort of just sat there in disbelief of what I just watched. This movie has a very basic premise. Of course, I had never heard of The Long Walk. This is a Stephen King adaptation, but I had never heard of it. And, something interesting that I did learn is that in the book, they had to walk, I think it was 4 miles an hour, because in the movie it's 3 miles an hour. And if they don't maintain that speed, they will get killed. Now, I walked into this movie. I say walked into this movie. I watched it on my bed. I started this movie just knowing that if they have to keep walking at a certain speed. Otherwise, I didn't know if they actually died or what happened. But yeah, and initial thoughts. This is probably the most emotional movie of the year. It is extremely, extremely heavy. And there weren't really many things this year that really hit me in the feels. I think it's mainly this movie, a couple scenes in The Conjuring Last Rites, and mainly Thunderbolts. I do think that Thunderbolts still gets me harder. Go, oh my! Oh, for fuck's sake! I mean, definitely gets me harder. I mean, Ghost and Yelena. Okay, I'm gonna stop. It hit me harder than this movie, but it entirely depends, on how I'm feeling at the moment. This is such a oh my god, I don't know, man. Such a cruelly realistic movie, and it is not for the faint of heart, obviously. The immediate comparison that I want to make is Squid Game. Squid Game is something that, and yes, it's Squid Game, not Squid Games, okay? Get it fucking right, man. People hear the concept of Squid Game and bear in mind, I'm talking about when season one was out, okay? Not before they ruined it with seasons two and three. Season one was out. Everyone goes, oh yeah, this sounds like a cool, fun concept. Let me watch this. And then you realize how emotionally devastating it is. And mainly with the first kill. Because that first death is like, oh shit, this is real. And with The Long Walk, it's probably, I'd say it has the same impact with its first death. There are some brutal scenes in this movie. The one that I did know, unfortunately, before watching this movie is the scene of where the guy gets his legs crushed by the tank. I did unfortunately see that before I saw the movie, but still, I feel like I have sort of just been getting my initial thoughts off in these first like 3 minutes because obviously I am still physically recovering from the movie. But let's bring some order back, shall we? And let me just talk about the main thing about this movie that works. And to be honest, if this, was not good, then the entire movie would have just been completely ruined. And that is the characters. You have some really good characters here. Of course, you have the main guy, Garrity, right? I can't remember his first name, but you have him, right? He is the main character of this movie. And I mean, we meet him in the opening scene, with his mum, Judy Greer. And my God, I looked at Judy Greer and went, oh my God, she looks so old now. Like, I know Jurassic World was 10 years ago, but come on, man. That is insane. But yeah, just from the opening alone, you really just, get that sense of, oh my god, okay, this is going to be, this is not gonna be very good. Which I just want to, commend Judy Greer for her acting in that scene. That was absolutely amazing of how she didn't want to let her son go. Really, really, really phenomenal. But yeah, this is, the scene where we are just sitting down is where we do meet a couple of the characters. We meet, Olsen. Olsen was freaking awesome, man. I loved him. I really, really did. And the scene of, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna get into that right now. Talking about the characters. I'm not talking about their deaths. His scene, I thought, was just amazing, man. Did I just say his scene? I meant his character. I mean, he was funny as hell, but also, they do reveal after he dies that he's the only person there who was married. He's the only person that had a wife. But I think that he's probably the character that they do the most with physically, because it doesn't take long, in the perspective of the movie. It doesn't take long before he is literally he's just holding his own hand and just walking silently, barely even responding to what everyone is saying. It is really, really, really good. Stebbins, who is the third guy that is the guy that makes a third, he was sort of just there. He was just there in the background. He didn't really do much. He sort of just sat there. Well, sat there. He was walking. He sort of just existed, over there. He was coughing. He was sneezing, and then he just said something mean every couple minutes. That's literally all he was, until his final scene when he reveals that he is one of the Major's bastards, and we actually get to learn a bit about him, which, I do sort of like that, but I do kind of wish that they hadn't left it until the last scene. Of course, this movie I think is amazing. It is amazing, but there are just slight nitpicks that I have, but I'll get to that later. Barkovich, I absolutely fucking hated, and I was sort of upset with how they ended his character, because obviously he was an absolute. I was about to say that YouTube will not allow that. He was an absolute dick. Let's just say, from the beginning until the scene when we get, I believe, the first death. No, it was the second death. The second death, I'm pretty sure it was. And then he's sort of just quiet, and then he'll just, be a dick again. But then all of a sudden, in his final scene, they try to make us like him, which didn't work for me. I'm sorry. He went out in a way that I definitely did not think was worthy. I think that he should have gotten a little bit more of a torturous death. Pearson, I thought, was really, really cool. He was just a cool dude. And again, another character I was so sad to see go, but he was, I don't know, he just really does feel like that bro. That one friend that you just sort of want to vibe with. I don't know, he was just so cool. Collie, I believe his name was, Collie Parker, the long-haired guy. I quite liked him in his introductory sequence, because he just sort of tells Barkovich to fuck off or else he'll eat the concrete. Hate the way he went out, but I sort of like what he brought to the dynamic of the main group of characters. I mean, he was, I believe, the fifth last guy, or fourth, whatever. He was in the top five. The Major. You had the Major. Immediately when they said in the first bit of the movie that the Major is here, I was like, okay, please tell me that I know the Major. And I just heard this voice, and I was like, oh shit, he has a cool fucking voice. And I was like, this guy looks so familiar. And then they zoom in on his face, and lo and behold, it's Mark Hamill. I was so excited to wait until the end of the movie to see who he was, and then I realized, oh, it's Mark Hamill. I definitely feel like they could have maybe had his character be in the movie just a bit more, because he doesn't really do that much. He only gets like two main, like proper scenes and the flashback. And then apart from that, he just sort of shows up for a couple seconds. That's it. I really do feel, I mean, he is the villain of the movie. He's orchestrated this whole long walk. but I just feel like they could have done more with him. Especially given his ties to the main character, but also, Stebbins. That's it. So yeah, just feel like they could have done a bit more there. But easily the standout character of this movie. I think everyone agrees that this was the best character, and there's a reason why he is first on the cast list. Was Peter McFreeze. David Johnson is amazing. You know, I think a lot of people watch Alien Romulus and went, holy shit. He did amazingly in that movie because, of course, he had to play two different versions of the same character. You know, he played like shy, timid Andy, and then he obviously had to play the more well-known personality that the Weyland-Yutani synthetics had. Extremely different personalities, and you get to the long walk, and he is just even better. He is so good. He steals every single scene he's in. And, you know, of course, that's just David Johnson. The character himself is just so good. He really is just, he's like that he's like that shimmer, you like that silver lining, let's just say. Obviously, a very dark, depressing, sad movie. And Peter was like the little bit of light, you know, because he really does spend a fair amount of the movie just like being pretty positive. And it's even the scene of when Garrity says, you know, I'm gonna use my wish to kill the Major. You know, the friggin' Peter says, no, you know, you gotta see the light, man. And he obviously resulted in probably my favorite scene of the movie, and that is the scene of when he gives his entire backstory. That shit got me tearing up. That was absolutely amazing. His delivery of every single line was just impeccable. Of course, the ending when Garrity dies, Ray, that's his name, Ray. When Ray dies, he absolutely nailed that scene, man. So yeah, I think that's enough talk about the characters. Let's talk about the deaths. Oh my god, there are some. Oh, jeez. The thing is, it is by description not brutal at all. You know, you just say, oh, they get shot in the head. But when you're actually watching it, it's like Squid Game, you know, every death just hits you. So I believe the first death is Curly, I want to say. The kid who everyone says lied about his age to get in. And he gets like, I don't know what it was, whether it was like a cramp or whatever it is. But you spend maybe about 20-30 seconds of him like hobbling to keep up with the crew. But unfortunately, he falls behind, and you get a brutal shot to the head. It is absolutely horrific to watch. And then you get the title card 21 minutes into this movie. And then you get the title card. It really did remind me of the Friday the 13th reboot from 2009. Because in that movie, it is, I believe, exactly 30 minutes until the title card happens. That is just ridiculous. Then you have the range scene, and this, oh my god, this pissed me off, man. So obviously you have Barkovich, who is like the absolute dick of the group. Every time I say the word, every time I call him a dick, just know that I want to say the C word, okay? And I honestly just wanted to, like, I don't know, I just wanted to, like, break his legs or something. He's so annoying. And of course, he is, you know, he's basically just prodding at range to try and piss him off, you know. Or as the new generation says, rage baiting. I hope I made a couple of you cringe with that. And of course, when range to go, oh my god. When range goes to hit him and misses, he ends up on the floor. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this death also sort of pissed me off. Not from, you know, character perspective, but from the writing perspective. Like, yes, I know that he fell on the ground and he skidded, but you're seriously telling me that he didn't have time to get up He didn't have time to get up and at least start walking. Like, really? Really? That's the only time I really question. Okay, not the only time. But, like, that was, like, the first time I really questioned the writing. I was like, don't know about that one, Chief. I think a pretty insane scene is at night when they are running. What say running? When they have to go up the hill, because there they said they lost 14 people, and you just see people dying left, right, and center. You know, you have Ray with a gun to his head, and that scene was tension. That scene was so fucking tense. But at least you had Peter on the side coaching Ray on what to do. You had the freaking author guy who, oh my god, this one again really did hit me. I really felt bad for this guy because this, I believe, is the morning after. Because of course, you know, at night they are all trying to run up this hill, and you see his ankle get twisted. But oh, gee. In the morning, he is literally walking because his heel is bent 90 degrees inwards, and he's walking on basically the stump of his leg. And obviously, he falls and he just gets killed instantly. It is, again, very, very, very cruel film. And you honestly, this is not for the faint of heart. I watched Game of Thrones, okay, and this is more. This felt more cruel to me. Olsen's death was, man, he fell behind, and you know Art went to go get him, but unfortunately, he freaking. Well, I say unfortunately, Ray saved him, but still, you know, Olsen got freaking shot in the gut. My God. They said it's like to discourage them or something like that, but I don't know. I still don't really understand why they shot him in the gut. I just knew that that scene was gonna hurt, you know, because of course he was such a fun, lively character in the first bit of the movie, and then it just sort of started to die down. So, oh man, it was a really good scene. I'll give them that. It was a damn good scene. Now, Barkovich's death. I want to talk about this one. This I was not happy with writing wise because obviously we all hate this guy, and every time Peter called him a killer, he would get triggered. He'd be like, don't fucking say that, man. Don't fucking say that. You don't get to fucking say that. You know, you're lying, man. And he becomes like this weird cuckoo guy. You know, he felt like Lex Luthor from Batman vs Superman. He's just fucking weird. And I guess, you know, we're supposed to assume that what he was telling Ray in his final scene was genuine, because I don't really understand why that would be a lie. You know, when he's like, I just keep replaying that scene in my head, man. And he basically, like, from between the scene of when he gets Range killed and the scene when he dies, all he does is just randomly shout, fuck, fuck. You know, that's literally all he does. So, yeah, really was not happy here. I feel like they should have just gone with the Squid Game route, you know, with like Doksu, and just had a character that you like outright hate. I know I'm making a lot of Squid Game comparisons, okay? I'm just saying, I'm just comparing it to another super cruel piece of media where where it's a competition. Now, obviously, you know, including seasons 2 and 3, this was leagues better than Squid Game, but still, he like goes in front of them and says, "I'm gonna be in front of all of you." W words forever, which I don't really understand what he meant by that. And then he just offed himself right there in front of them. And I don't know, man. I wasn't happy with that. There are a few deaths, and we're not done with them. There are a few deaths that I was not happy with writing wise. That was one of them. And then the other one was Collie Parker. You know, he seemed like a logical guy. You know, at least in the dialogue scenes that he had, he seemed like a sensible guy, all right? And then he just goes, oh, fuck it. And then he just takes the one guy's gun. And he does actually kill one of the soldiers, to be fair. But then he just doesn't shoot the other guy in the vehicle. Like why wouldn't you just keep walking, bro? And if you were gonna do that, then kill the other guy in the tank, you fucking idiot. He's literally on top. manning the turret. Also, as much as I was complaining about this death and the one just before, Barkovich, I will say that the scene of Barkovich and Ray talking really had me tense, because I genuinely thought that Barkovich was going to try and push Ray off of the pavement. I thought he was going to try and pull him off the pavement, so I was tense that entire scene. But yeah, Parker shoots himself in the head, so that's cool. I've already sort of spoken about the scene before, but the scene of when Ray sees his mum, I think, was really, really powerful. And it's sort of infuriating, but also at the same time, like, could you really be more, that much more resistant than Ray if you're doing this and you see your mum there? Yeah, not the last time I'll talk about the mum, but still, that scene was great. Then, of course, you have Stebbins' death, which he gives up. Of course, he gives up. And he's like, do me. And the other two just keep walking, and they get into the crowd. And then this is where the movie sort of lost me. This is where I was not happy at all. So, I keep wanting to say Andy. Peter obviously gets on his knees and is ready to die for Ray. And I expected this to happen, but I was quite happy with it. I was dreading the scene because obviously I knew that I was going to be an emotional mess while watching it. But then Ray picks him up and then he stops. And I was so unhappy with this, because this whole scene here, I feel, was just inconsistent. Now, this obviously, it's definitely something that I think people should be discussing, and I do want to be part of this discussion because I want to hear people's thoughts on this. So, Ray obviously sacrifices himself, and, once again, David Johnson gives an amazing performance, but yes, he is the winner. Peter is the winner now because Ray has chosen to sacrifice himself. And what were his dying words? He literally says, you see the light, or whatever he said. Basically saying that you see the light, I don't see it. You will make you'll make this a better world, whatever, right? And earlier in the movie, when Ray tells freaking Peter that he's gonna kill the Major, Peter spends like a good 2 or 3 minutes explaining to him why that's not a good idea. Why, Ray, he literally tells Ray, he's like, you're a good guy. You're a fucking good guy. And he's basically teaching him, to see the light in this shitty world that we live in. But then you get to this scene, and he just sort of goes against exactly what he said before. And of course, in most situations, I don't really mind this when a character goes from, wanting to kill someone, then not killing them. But in this case, I just feel like he shouldn't have killed the Major. I feel like that completely defeated the point of his conversation with Ray. Because now he's just as bad as everyone else in the world. He is no different to anyone else, which I wasn't happy about. I really was not happy about it. But yeah, he shoots the Major right there and then. And then he just walks off. And we don't unfortunately get to see Ray's mum again, which I always feel like we should get more of this. Whenever we have these sorts of premises of characters being put in an isolated situation where they die, I want to see the family's reactions. Because again, much like Squid Game, I know you're probably rolling your eyes at how much I'm bringing this up, especially considering how much I disliked the last 2 seasons of Squid Game. You look at Squid Game, and in season 2 at least, I think, or at the end of season 1, sorry, you actually do see some repercussions. You see, I believe it's Sang-woo's mum being like, where's Sang-woo? Where's Sang-woo? You get to see the consequences of these characters dying and going missing and all of this. Look at Se-byok's brother. All of these things that still have an impact. I really do feel like we should have seen Ray's mum after he died, because it's sort of like, oh, okay, our main character just died, and his family is the only one that's in the town, and we're just not going to see her again. We're not going to, we're not going to deal with that emotional ramification. We'll just, just ignore it, just move on. It's dead. It's done now. Which, gonna be honest with you, I know that movies don't have to drag out their conclusions, but between Weapons and this movie, I really need more of a conclusion to these movies, because my biggest complaint with Weapons was the ending. If you haven't seen Weapons, and but I'm not going to spoil it, but the climax happens, and then literally about a minute, not even 2 minutes later, the credits start rolling. And with this movie, it's exactly the same thing. What you're watching the movie for happens, and then a minute later, bam, credits roll. And I just I don't know. Obviously, yes, it leaves for an open ending. All of this leaves it to the viewer's imagination, yada yada yada. But come on, man, just give us something. Of course, it ending with him walking was pretty poetic. I did quite like that, but man, I wish that we could have gotten just a little bit more of a conclusion. Oh my fucking god. Also, something that I was really hoping that I would remember when I'm actually filming this review, is there's a scene, I believe it's after the first death, when Ray and Peter are talking to each other, and Peter says, I was fully expecting him to pull out the gun, and when he pulls the trigger, a little red flag comes out that says bang. Look, I know it's pushing it a bit, and I'm stretching like Mr. Fantastic for this reference, but is it a coincidence? I think not. That Mark Hamill is literally in this movie, and he's the Joker, and that's like one of the most iconic things that the Joker does. No, am I stretching? Okay, whatever. Look, I'm just gonna sit in my pretty little independent world and think that that was a line that was just added because Mark Hamill, aka the Joker, is in this movie, and he does that a lot. So, yeah. Overall, guys, The Long Walk is a fucking depressing movie. This is so sad, and you do get a few moments of levity that last maybe 10 seconds. But yeah, I'm glad that this was not rated PG-13, because there's definitely some people that would have sort of been traumatized by this. It's like Titanic. People tell you to not watch Titanic when you're young, and then, but that's why. You won't really understand the emotional impact of it. Either that, or it will just traumatize you. The Long Walk, despite me not really liking the ending, I think that the fact that they were able to take this premise and, turn it into a movie without, getting the viewer bored at any point was amazing. There was no point in this movie where I was like, oh my god, is this almost over? With The Strangers Chapter 1, I was 15 minutes in and I was hoping that it was over. The Strangers Chapter 1, The Strangers Chapter 2. I think that this was remarkable. It was absolutely amazing. So, yes, guys, that is my review of The Long Walk. Please let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of the characters, of the ending of this movie, and what was the scene that got you the most emotional? I really would love to know that. So, yes, just anything and everything. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.